Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of Otis, and I'm back here with another video. Before we get right into it, as usual, I've been seeing some comments from people asking me if Deku looks like Darkseid, like he does in like movies and the comics. No, he does not look like Darkseid. He's just a very buff Deku. It bothered me a lot, so I just went and did a quick sketch. So I didn't plan it out that well, but this is what he looks like in his glory. He looks nothing like Darkseid. He's just a very buff Deku. And again, like, I didn't plan it out. He was supposed to be like kind of looking cool, but instead he's smiling just because I didn't care. But here it is. If you want me to actually draw like a whole thing of how he looks, go ahead and tell me. And also, I have figured out what ifs I'm gonna do next. So one of them is, what if Asta was the reincarnation of Zoro? Second one is, what if Naruto could cancel chakra, like Aizawa's quirk erasure, just to like erase things? And the third one, it has to come down to, what if Deku had a ability to code quirks, or what if Deku had Godspeed, which is like Killua's transformation in Hunter x Hunter. Also for the Naofumi what if, the shield hero what if, I haven't chosen yet because you guys gave actually a lot of options, so I'm still thinking of what I should do. One of the possible candidates right now is, what if he had the Sharingan? That and this one about a mask that tells you what to do in a certain game. I don't remember the name. Or blood, black blood or something. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And also I forgot, what if Naruto had spiral powers? I forgot about that. Thank you for the suggestion. If you did skip it, you didn't see it, but you know, I mentioned it. Let's get right into the video. All the villains from the league come out of the portal when Aizawa tells the students to stay behind him, but realizes that Deku is already heading down the steps. Sorry, Sensei, I'll take the lead on this one, says Deku. Deku gets down to it, beating up all the mobs and using his telekinesis to freeze some of them in place and knocks them out swiftly. By this point, the students try to help out, seeing as Deku inspired them, but this is when they get teleported away. Aizawa, who saw this, just said screw it and tells Deku to keep doing what he's doing since he's already overwhelming everyone in his path. And then he heads for Shigaraki. However, the Nomu interjects, of course following Shigaraki's orders, and hits him hard, crushing his arm while he was trying to block. Seeing this, Deku catches Aizawa, stopping him from slamming into a wall, and Aizawa then thanks him. By this point, they're surrounded by a bunch more villains, so Deku uses his telepathy to jam their brains and makes them all pass out, and they fall to the ground, leaving Aizawa even more amazed. "How did you do that? I thought you could only talk to people with your mind," says Aizawa. "I can, but my abilities are really versatile, so I just controlled it to jam their brain and knock them out." Shigaraki is watching this and he is shocked, thinking that All For One needs to get his hand on this kid and orders Kurogiri to teleport him close to him. And so he does, and Deku disappears from Aizawa's eyes, and he looks to see where he went and rushes in, fighting a bunch more villains and dangerous minions. We go to Shigaraki, who's trying to coerce Deku into becoming a villain and thinks that Deku has no choice but to accept. "Hell no, why would I join you? My ideals are way different than yours. Also, you're really creepy," says Deku. Shigaraki gets mad at this and tries to kill the kid himself. And when 5 of his fingers touch Deku's face, he starts laughing, thinking that it was over, but then realizes his face wasn't decaying, and his smirk turned into a frown as he backs away in fear, sending the Nomu at Deku. And Deku is very confused as to what he was trying to do, but doesn't have time to think because a giant creature is rushing at him with a barrage of punches. He dodges everything while checking the Nomu's body, because what he plans on designing is very similar to this creature, so he's taking some notes. But before that, he wants to test this thing, so he lands on stable footing and lets the Nomu hit him, creating a gust of wind and dust to go over him. Shigaraki starts laughing like crazy again, thinking that he's dead for sure this time, but as the wind stops covering Deku, it reveals him standing firm for a punch, and then he quickly jabs at the Nomu's stomach while also ripping off a piece of its skin, and it backs away, regenerating. Deku is definitely impressed, but so he decides to have some fun and forces the Nomu into a fist fight, similar to when All Might fought it, and he's having fun. Shigaraki watches in complete shock. "This thing was designed to beat All Might. Who even is this kid?" says Shigaraki. The Nomu uses one more powerful punch as a desperate attempt to win, but Deku quickly and easily swipes its hand away in the direction of Kurogiri and blew him back due to the sheer power and then he uppercuts it through its mouth, reaching his head, which is when he reaches his brain and crushes it. At this moment, All Might and all the other heroes arrive, but a bit more late this time because Ida had to deal with a lot before he could escape this time and tell them everything that was happening. They all saw in amazement how Deku easily beat the Nomu as if it was child's play, but then, "Young Midoriya!" yells All Might. He yells out his name not only because he wanted to let everyone know he was here, but also because Shigaraki, regardless of knowing that he was gonna get beat up, rushed at Deku in a blind rage. All Might and the other heroes rush in very fast thinking that Deku was gonna die, but he just turns around holding Shigaraki in the air by using his telekinesis. "You never learn, do you?" says Deku. He then jams his brain as well, making him pass out as he promises he will get revenge. Kurogiri attempts to take Shigaraki away, but he's then intercepted by Aizawa, who cancels out his quirk and manages to outmaneuver him. "Midoriya, can you knock this one out too?" says Aizawa. He does so, and thus they have captured the troublemakers, and All Might thanks Deku and apologizes for being late, and so do the other heroes, who are now thinking that they're considering taking him under their wing. This is when reporters arrive having seen everything and want to interview Deku, but the heroes keep them away because he's a student who needs his privacy, but there are also villains everywhere. Pretty soon the whole incident ends and Deku helps out some students like Mineta and Sue, and of course his main lady Jiro, but before he gets to take her home, Nezu stops him saying that they need his help interrogating the villains. At first he didn't want to, but realizes that they won't be able to wake them up without him, so he goes. By All Might's orders, Deku wakes them up, and Shigaraki and Kurogiri can't believe that this kid actually was the one who beat them. And after a while of interrogating them, what they learn is that Shigaraki is obviously mentally broken, and he's willing to serve All for One no matter what, although not revealing who his actual master is. However, All Might knows who it is because he's not stupid. But Kurogiri is different because he can't respond. It's like he's not there at all. He's just there to respond to Shigaraki. He's like an animal who's only waiting for his master's orders. And Aizawa doesn't know that this is his best friend yet. "Can your ability see into memories as well as communicate with the telepathic link?" asks Nezu. "Never really tried it before, but I can try," says Deku. Deku approaches a tied up Kurogiri and touches him on the forehead, trying to force himself into his subconscious. And since he's never done this before, the only thing he can get is a name before he's shocked back to reality, while also being shocked literally from the drawback. And then they check if he's okay. Deku then says, "Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry, but I got a name. Any of you guys know someone named Shirakumo?" Aizawa's eyes widen and he is horrified, finding out that his best friend became such a mindless creature. And realizing this, Nezu told Deku that it was okay for him to go home, understanding how tense the situation was. Deku then excused himself and went home, and he opens his door, but Inko jumps at him crying, saying that she was so worried. "Don't worry, I'm still alive. I'm here. There's no way I'm leaving you, just like Dad did." He and his mom then take time to talk while also cleaning up the house, and of course she is still worried but trusts that Deku will prevail through anything. Soon he goes to his room telling Inko that he doesn't want dinner today and takes the Nomu's DNA and combines it with the DNA he kept in the jar and uses his telekinesis to control the materials, not realizing that he's actually using his ability to control matter. And he molded a servant similar to the Nomu, but he gave it a human face while also keeping its fur and ears like a dog. Along with that, it is also very buff but lean in muscle mass. And it doesn't really look savage, it looks slightly dignified. You guys can imagine a beast man from like an isekai story or any fantasy story ever. Along with all that, yes, he can't talk. Now, he designed it to take orders and also have the ability to shrink because he wanted to carry it everywhere. And he also designed a bit of armor for it because nobody wants to see all of that. Great, I confirm now that I can actually do this, so maybe I'll make a few more, says Deku. He stays up all night, sneaking out to take more DNA from random bones, any skin, anything he can find, and makes more pots to hold them. And if you want to know where he found all this equipment, he found it by the Goba Beach, which was filled with trash, but of course, it was cleaned up by someone one day. When it's time to go back to school, Inko found Izuku by his desk drooling and wakes him up by slapping him on the head and tells him that he's late. So he wakes up taking a shower and brushes his teeth and then flies out. He reaches UA soon, but today for some reason, there were reporters here again, and they can see him flying. The reporters start talking about this. He can fly too? I thought he had a strength quirk. Maybe he even has more quirks? Does he have 3? 5? They're really interested. So unlike usual, because of the commotion, everyone saw him flying, including the students and teachers. So he doesn't want to land and enters his class through a window, only to be surprised again when his classmates get up in his face asking if he's okay and that he was also awesome at the USJ. So this is one of your quirks, says Sue. Yep, actually, if you want to know, you can just ask Jiro. I told her all the abilities I have. I don't mind if she tells you, I just didn't feel like answering you back then. Even Bakugo knows, says Deku. They all turn around with a twinkle in their eyes at Jiro because there is no way they're asking Bakugo of all people. She's then forced to tell them all what she knows about him, and Aizawa walks in hearing something interesting. One time, Deku did this weird thing where he controlled a dog that was attacking us and told it to go to sleep, and then it did, says Jiro. Before they can say anything, Aizawa tells them to shut up and tells them about the UA Sports Festival and all that's gonna happen. And also tells Deku that he did a very good job, but also that they need to talk about his mind control ability later. Deku slightly chuckles, saying, Aizawa, you're doing it again. I wasn't the only one who helped with the villains back there. Everyone did amazing under pressure. Aizawa apologizes for going back into his old habits and congratulates everyone equally. And Deku was starting to change his opinions about him. Of course, they didn't do much compared to Deku, but you have to compliment your students sometimes. They need the emotional reinforcement. Deku got his lunch and was heading to his table where Jiro, Uraraka, Mina, Ida, Kaminari, and Kirishima are sitting. However, on the way, Monoma passes by him trying to trip him. But he notices this and he kicks Monoma's foot so hard that he actually flips up and he's falling back down trying to touch him so he can use his quirk. He starts floating in midair and sees that Deku is doing it. There's a crowd watching by this point. What the hell do you want? Asks Deku. Just wanted to test how strong Class 1A was, answers Monoma. Oh, you're one of those people. Okay, stop trying to pick fights because you didn't get the spotlight. You just happened to be attacked by villains. I don't know why you envy that. Some people almost died, responds Deku. Monoma would then try to lie about this, saying that he wasn't trying to rile him up or anything. I can read your mind. There's no point in lying to me, says Deku. People start murmuring, saying, oh, that's bullshit. That can't be true. This guy's trying to act tough like he knows how to do everything. Alright then, let me show you what he's thinking instead, says Deku. He does the same thing he did during the exercise, bringing back bad memories for Bakugo, while also ridiculing Monoma, who is pretty mad right now. All you from Class 1A are just wannabes. You're not that amazing, yells at Monoma. You know how I said I could read minds, right? Trust me, you do not want to know what I'm thinking right now. His eyes flash red as Deku just drops him to the ground, and Monoma is scared shitless. And Deku goes to eat with everyone. Now everybody knows how to mess with him, even the upperclassmen. Then they also see him get scolded by Jiro because Jiro thought that was a bit much because he's done this before, and wonder if that's his girlfriend because he doesn't look like the type of guy that would take crap from anybody. Jiro hears this, blushes and sits back down, and Deku does as well. After eating, they go back to class and see that it's actually surrounded for some reason. Deku, grabbing Jiro by the hand, walks through the crowd, realizing that they're here to declare war, but wants to ignore it because today is the day that Jiro, for the first time, believe it or not, wanted to come to his house. And he doesn't want to deal with these bozos. But when he goes to leave, he's met by Shinso, who says that Class 1A again ain't shit. And at this point, Deku is sick of having to talk to these guys and releases a lot of his bloodlust, scaring everyone off. Once he arrives home with a girl, Inko is happy for him, but keeps pointing out the relationship a lot while they have dinner. But Inko grows to like Jiro though, but she still questions her because that's what a mother does. And right before she leaves, Deku pops the question, asking her if she wants to go on a date after the UA Sports Festival, and she agrees. During the 2 weeks, he uses this time to actually work on his ability to control people, but not much because he doesn't like controlling others. Also, he finds out his ability to control matter. And when I say manipulate and control matter, it doesn't have limits, as he can turn an object into anything he wants as long as he understands what it's made of, similar to Momo. Also, he can turn the material into any shape or size by just focusing on it. He's also making more minions, having 10 at this point, and kept 3 at home in secret to protect his mom. And since this time they're partly made from his DNA, not the Nomus, they can all use a portion of his powers, but on a smaller scale. But they do have Nomu level strength and regeneration. They can morph and also be stealthy, and they all look like beastmen. They can also follow him undetected as they're almost like ninja. Now we cut to the students waiting in the room, talking until it's supposed to be introduced. Todoroki then starts walking over to him, and Deku reads his mind, stands up. Before Todoroki could say anything, "I don't care if you think you're stronger than me. Prove that to me when we're up against each other," says Deku. Bakugo gets up in Todoroki's face for even daring to challenge Deku before he could, and then he challenged Deku, who smirks as everyone feels the immense pressure in the room. The students are then introduced, and the crowd applauded, recognizing Deku from the USG incident and are rooting for him. Also, as the strongest in the class, even though Todoroki won't admit it, Deku gets to make the speech, and relatively he talks pretty straightforwardly that he's going to win, not to be a jerk, but just points out his goal. But some students get offended by this, especially Bakugo and Todoroki. We go to the starting point of the race, and as soon as midnight gives the signal, Todoroki freezes everybody in place and getting ahead, along with Bakugo following far behind him. "Cheeky bastard," says Deku as he cracks his neck, and everyone passing him is wondering why he's not trying to move yet. But then they see him get in a stance, as his muscles just tense up, and in a moment, all the ice created by Todoroki is shattered as he blasts off, passing both Todoroki and Bakugo in an instant, also smashing through the torso of a zero-pointer, and everyone is completely baffled. And for a while, they thought that he was going to jump through the obstacles, but then realized that, oh, this kid can fly, because he did not land back down, and he was maneuvering as if he was born to fly. President Mike then proceeds to ask Aizawa if this kid in fact has more than one quirk, and if he can name them. From what I've heard, Midoriya has 5 quirks, and recently has revealed that he also has the ability to not only read minds, but also control them, says Aizawa. Shinso, who heard this, is pretty shocked because this guy's already pretty strong. Why do you have to get a quirk like mind control? However, he has also shown disdain for using the quirk as he likes to fight his opponents head on, says Aizawa. The crowd is very impressed at this power. However, they can sense like their disdain for the power of mind control and can also feel the very conflicted feelings of Shinso, and he gets mad. By this point, he already reached the canyon, but was no longer flying and only using physical strength because he wanted to make this more fun for himself. He kept jumping from pillar to pillar, and soon he runs, making it to the mines, and realizes that Bakugo and Todoroki are also at the canyon, and he just simply runs through the mines, making explosions everywhere. At first, everyone thought he was completely dead and called him stupid, but then they see him run out of the smoke completely unscathed, making them wonder if this kid also has a quirk that makes him be able to harden his skin like they saw Kirishima do after he was hit by the robot that was falling down. Anyway, Deku does get first place and is then met by Bakugo, who's in second place, because in this timeline he pushed himself more to beat Deku, and then Todoroki arrives. He ends up feeling frustrated that he couldn't even beat Deku, let alone beat Bakugo. Moving on, Deku gets 10 million points, and at first people were staring at him with the intention to beat him, but then they remember, this dude is a beast, and get more unsure and nervous. Deku seeing this laughs, and while all this was happening, All For One, who disguised himself, was watching Deku in amazement, really impressed that this kid would have so much power, and he wants to take his quirks. Out of the cheering crowd, a certain man looks at All For One and thought he was a low-ranked hero who wanted Izuku as his sidekick, and he said, "He's amazing, isn't he? Some people are saying he might be as strong as All Might, maybe even stronger." "Is that so? Izuku Midoriya, you're just full of surprises. What are you gonna show me next?" says All For One creepily. Midnight now spins the roulette again and reveals that they will be doing a cavalry battle, and at this point, All for One in fact actually sent 4 villains to attack Deku's home, so he could take someone precious to him hostage. The villains entered, sneaking in and saw Inko reading on the sofa and attempted to knock her out from behind. She heard footsteps, however, so she turned around, only to see nothing as the villains proceeded to sneak up behind her with a knife to her throat. Who are you? What do you want? Asked Inko in a scared voice. Be quiet, we won't hurt you. Just come with us, said the villain. She starts to cry while the knife was slightly grazing her neck and she screams for help in her mind. This is when the villain looked behind him and saw that his accomplices were lying on the floor dead with their necks twisted. So in fear he threw Inko to the floor and he puts up his guard. Who's there? Come out. You don't scare me, says the villain. Of course, even though he's saying this, his legs are shaking because they weren't expecting a more powerful opponent. And then he feels someone behind him, so he turns around to stab it with his knife when it just shatters. At this point, both the villain and Inko are looking at a tall creature wearing what looks like a butler uniform, and then quickly kills the man without spilling any blood because Deku told them not to. Inko, terrified, just starts to get away from it as far as possible, and she tries to yell for help and she closes her eyes. And she tells it to stop because she's scared. Inko opens her eyes and sees that it's actually listening to her. Why are you listening to me? Who are you? Are there more of you? Why are you here? Asks Inko, scared. As she says this, the creature bows and 2 more hop out, bowing as well, and they look up and say in unison, We are servants of Master Izuku. As his mother, please feel free to use us how you please. We are at your command, mistress. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. I really hope you guys liked that what if, and like I said before, sorry about any background noise, that was actually my phone popping up all those notifications, and I forgot to put it on total silence, so I apologize about that. Anyway, if you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe so we can reach our next goal. Thank you for watching today. Also, apparently one of you wanted me to make a video addressing how I make my thumbnails, but honestly, it's not that special. But I'm gonna do it soon, but it's gonna take a lot of editing because one, I'm not gonna be adding my voice in it because I mean that's just gonna take way too long to mention all the processes I go through, but I'll still make it. So for the one who suggested this, I will make it. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this to anybody who might like what ifs, and join the family. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. And it will be what if Naruto had Kiji's powers. Bye.